What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Words from My Face. My name is Brian. With me, as always, producer extraordinaire Brendan.
Yo.
And we are the one and only home of the Chewbacca chainsaws. Yeah, I was actually, me and Chewie were watching the Clone Wars, catching up on a little bit of that, and his nephew was in that. And if you haven't seen it, you should really do it, because big Chewbaccas, Wookiees are cute, but little ones, they're even cuter.
I don't know. Have you ever seen the Star Wars Christmas special?
I have not.
I don't recommend it, but there were a lot of little Wookiees.
Okay. And I guess you could consider Ewoks as little Wookiees. They just look like they haven't hit their growth spurt yet, Wookiees.
Yeah, I guess. I think that's what they're going for. I've heard from people that originally that battle was at the end of Return of the Jedi was supposed to be on Kashyyyk.
It would have been a lot cooler if it was. Let's just be honest. It would have. We all know it would have been cooler. And then they might have invented the chainsaw back then, and then they wouldn't even have to worry about the rest of the Empire, because then the Wookiees would have chainsaws. And we all know what happens when they get chainsaws. They win everything.
Yeah, honestly, though, if the battle was on Kashyyyk, that's kind of a one-sided battle. But even without that, if they did that, how would Steven Spielberg be able to make millions and millions of little Ewok stuffed animals? What about the children, Brian? You got to think about the children.
You do. You do got to think about the children when it comes to that. But tonight is our entertainment show, and if you don't know what we do on our entertainment show, this is where we talk about TV, movies, video games, just some of the stuff that's not sports that we really like. Because we do the sports show on Thursday, if you didn't know. Watch it.
At 10 p.m.
At 10 p.m. Hey, we're usually on time, but not always. It's kind of 10-ish. We should really switch it to 10-ish.
Yes. That seems completely professional. 10-ish, when we get around to it. You guys can wait.
We'll be on there at some point. Come on, let's be honest though. Most of you watch this on the YouTube channel after we've already recorded, which is cool. But just so you know, if you ever want to get a hold of us, we are on the Twitter at wordsformyface.com.
The Twitter.
We're at wordsformyface. You can always tweet us. Wordsformyface at Gmail, wordsformyface.com. But you know what? There's something called comments down below. We read those. We do. You might be surprised, but I read every single one of those comments.
All 5 of them.
If that. So if you want to be one of the first 10, hey, jump on in. We got plenty of room on the boat. Come on in. But let's start this off like we start off every one of our entertainment shows, and that's with the horrible movie of the week.
The horrible movie of the week? Do I have to do the sound effect again?
You should.
What if I did a different one?
Well, all right, surprise me.
All right. Well, this is my surprise one.
I'm pinned down!
Well, hey, when I'm watching these movies, I feel pinned down. But what I do with the horrible movie of the week is once a week I pick a horrible movie, and if you'd like to tell me a horrible movie, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and I will get to it. And I torture myself with a bad movie, and I don't really give a review. I just kind of tell you some of the worst things about the movie and why I hate it so much. And usually this is where I get really sad and bitter.
Very
much so. But so this week, I watched the great Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, let's say adventure romp called License to Drive.
Brian looks so bitter about that, too. He actually looks, I don't know, a little excited, maybe?
No, not excited. I'm just trying to put on a face. It's a show. I'm trying to liven things up a little bit. But, so License to Drive came out in 1988, and they should never have ported it to, VHS, and they should never have ported it to DVD, and they never should have put it on Netflix instant streaming, but they did. There's a reason those two guys were known for being, some of the biggest, child star burnouts that anybody's ever seen. Because they weren't really good as child stars, and then they weren't really good as adult stars.
What did they do? I'm not even familiar.
They have a million movies. Lost Boys. I could go through them. I believe one of them was in the Goonies. And Corey Feldman.
Was a good movie.
Yeah, but not both. But let's just get into this, because I'd like to put this movie in my rear view. Get it? It's License to Drive in my rear view. Yeah, you can walk me on that one. Go ahead. I do deserve that womp. I'm not going to deny it. I deserve it. But let me just tell you some of the things I hated most about this movie. Number one, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman were in it. And when you have two Coreys in one movie, it's just never going to work out.
There could never be more than one Corey.
Yeah. And, well, let's just start down the list. Of course, the intro song is a cheesy 80s remix of a Beatles song, and the 80s were known for doing these cheesy synthesizer remixes of every good classic song and ruining them. And they put one of these in the movie.
Well, I mean, it was in the 80s.
It was in the 80s. Everybody dresses like they're in a cartoon. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, because I mean, I understood why X-Men had all the bright colors. Like Wolverine wouldn't, if he was a real life person, they wouldn't really put him in the yellow suit. But apparently, in the '80s, that's how they all dressed at all times.
Yeah.
And also, I noticed, how come all the older sisters hate all the younger brothers in all of these '80s movies? I mean, I don't understand that. Like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that older sister just tried to ruin Ferris Bueller's Day.
And she saves him in the end.
Yeah, kinda.
You know, some redemption. You
know. This movie also had a healthy '80s fear of communism in it. Not lots of mentions of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Corey Feldman at one point wears this shirt, which is supposed to make him look cool. It's a button-down shirt, but for some reason the breast pocket is right above his belt.
Maybe that was a thing at the time.
Maybe it was. The dad who played Phil in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was actually in the movie. I like that. I just thought I'd mention that real quick.
I think I've only ever seen him in one other anything.
Well, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So,
I'm saying one other thing other than Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I think I've seen him do a cameo somewhere, but yeah, he hasn't.
Yeah, not much.
Very much.
But, of course, in this movie, the kid steals a car, get it licensed to drive. And, of course, the car seems to run perfectly fine most times, but whenever he really needs it to start up quick, it doesn't start. Why do they do that in movies? They do it all the time.
Effect.
I guess. And the last thing is, of course, they have to drop a beam on the car at the end as the cliche. It always happens that way. I mean, I can't tell you how many movies I remember seeing that in. Which I won't tell you because I can't remember off the top of my head, but it happens in a lot of movies, especially in the 80s. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed our horrible movie of the week, and I give this one, I'm going to give it a 2 Chewbacca chainsaws out of 5.
All right.
It means it's pretty darn bad. So not the worst one, not like movie 43 from last week, but pretty darn bad. Yeah, I don't know if maybe we should just move them. I guess that was 2 chainsaws. Yeah, it sucks. So if you ever see somebody watching that movie, you're like, hey, what's this movie? It looks kind of fun. And they say it's licensed to drive. Run the other way immediately. It's dangerous.
Maybe they should get in a car, perhaps steal one, to get away.
But it won't start at the right time because that's how all 80s movies work.
And they'll be forced to watch the movie or get a steel beam dropped on their car.
Well, yeah, I'd rather get a steel beam dropped on my car, to be honest with you. So let's move it on to some TV news. And now this is actually pretty cool, but I'm a little bit iffy on it. And it is the news. Now, it's not breaking news, but Stephen Colbert is going to replace David Letterman when he steps down from the Late Show on CBS. And now Stephen Colbert is going to be dropping his Colbert persona that he has on the Colbert Report, which is one of the best personas I've ever seen. I mean, he gets all these people on there and then just rails them in the gist of a joke, you know, and people will take it, you know, because they think, he's just being goofy and having fun. No, he's nailing you all. So he's going to be being his real personality on the new Late Show. And I'm just kind of curious how that's going to work, because everything we love about Colbert is just his tongue-in-cheek comedy, his I'm this super conservative, and showing people how crazy some of these super conservatives are. And he's not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and actually one of the nice things I always thought about him is he wasn't, like, he was showing how crazy some of the super conservatives are by being over the top, but he wasn't exclusively making fun of that either. Like, he was doing social commentary across the spectrum.
Exactly. I mean, he kind of veiled himself as the super conservative, but he took shots at everybody across all aisles. It didn't matter if you did something stupid in politics. He used his satire to point it out, which is one of the things I love so much about this show, because in the same vein as the Daily Show, which really, the Colbert Report is a show. It's pretty cool because people, especially younger generations, will pay attention to it. Now, I'm not saying to get your news from these two sources, but if you listen to what they're saying and then go back and look at it yourself, like research it a little bit and without all the jokes in there, you realize that they're pretty on point about most things, and you can fill in the story for yourself and just see how crazy this stuff is. So this is kind of the news for this generation of people. I mean, my generation, your generation, if you're a lot younger than I guess not your generation, but people even older love this stuff just because it's just fun. It's just fun and well done. And so now that he's taken over the Late Show, now late night TV shows, I mean, who watches those things anymore? Nobody. Those have been dead. I mean, Jay Leno left and then he came back, and I don't think anybody cared. So, I mean, hopefully he'll bring something back. It's an American classic. I mean, the Johnny Carson show was just classic American TV. Everybody loved that thing. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. Plus, David Letterman, he's been getting old. That whole top 10 list hasn't been good for about 15 years, and it's time for something fresh.
15 years.
15 years. Well, it's been on the air for...
worst top 10 lists by David Letterman.
I don't think we could only fit 10 in there because, like I said, there's 15 years of horrible ones to go through. So, yeah, I mean, that used to be an original funny bit, and then it just never got any better. It got stale. So here's looking to Colbert to liven things up a little bit on late night TV.
Yeah, I'm honestly excited about it because I like Stephen Colbert, and I've heard some of his stuff outside of that persona, and he seems at least like a very intelligent, relatable guy, which is especially the relatable part and the down to earth, level-headed guy, unlike his persona, is exactly what you want to see in a late night host that also has that, with that tongue-cheek ability, his interviewability of walking circles around people. That I doubt that he'll do it as much in a late night show.
He'll pull back because he'll be interviewing like celebrities. Yeah. He won't be interviewing the political people anymore. Yeah. So,
but one can only hope that one can only hope that some of it will still be retained, at least every once in a while. So.
If he does a bit on his show, it would work. I mean, he knows it already works, so it would. I mean, he's already used to doing that every night monologue, so that should still be good. I'm just really curious to see how this will work out. And now it's not really set when that's going to happen. Probably sometime next year, because Letterman hasn't announced exactly when he's going to retire, but he is retiring within the next year or two. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be an easy transition. I know Letterman's already had Colbert on the show since the announcement and talked to him about it and everything. So, like, Letterman essentially getting his blessing for the continuation through Colbert, so there won't be that bitterness that maybe existed when Jay Leno was kicked out. And
he wasn't kicked out; he left, and then he came back. I thought he was. Okay. Yeah, he left, and then he decided he wanted a show still, and so they gave him a 10 o'clock slot, and they gave Conan O'Brien the Tonight Show, and then Leno was like, well, I still want to do that stuff, so they're like, okay, we'll give you 11:30 to 12, and Conan O'Brien was like, that's the Tonight Show slot, you're taking my slot, screw you guys, I'm going home, and that's what he did. So he moved on over to TBS.
Yeah, he went over to TBS for the Conan O'Brien show, whatever it was.
So yeah, we're looking forward to that, but let's move on to something else. And in this era of remakes and redos and reboots and adding additions onto franchises, I mean, just like, listen to this. I mean, think about these movies in the past couple of years. You have Star Trek rebooted itself. You have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot. Power Rangers is about to reboot itself. Sin City's adding on. Star Wars is adding on. I mean, you have all these different franchises either adding on or rebooting their franchise. I decided we should make a list of what we want to see either remade or added onto.
In movies.
In movies, yeah. Just in movies. Only movies. But I'm going to start off with my first one, and this is, I think almost everybody in the world would agree with me. They need to remake number 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars because those sucked. They need to get some decent actors. Now, Obi-Wan was pretty cool. I'm pretty cool with Samuel L. Jackson being Mace Windu, but everybody else really, really didn't do very well.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you on that for this reason. Not on the reason why, is because history has shown the longer we let Star Wars get remade, the worse it gets.
That is true. So we don't want it. Well, let's give it to J.J. Abrams, like they've given the new 3 to. So I trust J.J. Abrams. He's on the cutting edge of all that stuff. He does great sci-fi stuff. He did the Star Trek reboots. I would trust him to redo it. Now, of course, they're not going to because these movies aren't even 10 years old yet. But like I said, this is our wish.
All right.
So let's go to one of yours. Give us one of yours.
X-Men 3.
The X-Men 3. Yes, sir. It had
Definitely
potential.
Yeah, well, the way X-Men 2 ended, I was so excited for X-Men 3.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the indications that Phoenix was going to be in there.
Yep.
Knew some of the background of Phoenix. You know, there's the edginess, but the good, and all these great things that were coming. And they gave you Phoenix, but not the storyline. The way they used Phoenix was not what I was hoping for. Like,
they gave you the crappiest Phoenix ever. I mean, they screwed that movie up. Brett Ratner, we talked about it last week, is not the best with some of these franchises. They killed that franchise. You kill Cyclops, one of the main characters of every X-Men episode storyline ever, in the first 5 minutes. You bring back Phoenix, and she really doesn't have a brain. For some reason, she's listening to Magneto and not anybody else. I mean,
there's the stuff about the guy that can get rid of mutant powers, and that's big. And that was like could have been interesting with the whole curing of the mutants and that struggle, but it wasn't really executed very well.
Horrible.
And they screwed up something like Juggernaut loses his powers. Apparently, Juggernaut's not a mutant.
Yeah, no, he's not. He got his powers from like a gem.
Yeah, and that's why he hates mutants. He always hated mutants, and he's not a mutant. He whatever. But fine, whatever. That's maybe nitpicking, but just the execution.
No, it's not nitpicking.
Great.
You are totally correct. It was a horrible movie, and it just took. I mean, after X-Men 2 left you on such a high, it just brought you down to depths that we didn't think existed. And then X-Men Wolverine
Nightcrawler wasn't even there to redeem it. You didn't even have Nightcrawler, who was my favorite character. He refused to join it, at least without more money, which now, after you see it, you can understand why he demanded more money to be in that.
He's like, pay me if I'm going to put my name on this piece of crap. So, yeah, so, hey. And another movie, this is actually one that I would like to see added on to, and it is started as a TV show, and you might know it as Firefly, one of the greatest TV shows that only lasted 11 episodes. I don't know what happened. It was a really, really good show. But then the movie came out, one of my most favorite movies of all time, and you really don't need to see the show to see the movie. Most favorite. Most favoritist. But that is Serenity came out. And so, whether they bring out the TV show again, I could see another movie happening. That would be awesome because, who's it? Nathan Fillion, great actor. Joss Whedon, he did great stuff with the Avengers. He's a talented guy. I think he could. Yeah, I think there's a little bit more room in that universe of Firefly to make a return run.
Cool.
Give us one of yours.
All right, you might see some parallels here, but Matrix Revolutions.
Yeah. Actually, was that the second or third movie?
That was the third.
I like the third. The second one I thought sucked. I like the third all right.
Honestly, well, I didn't mind it as much as some people I know hate it, because some people will deny the existence of the second two movies.
It did not happen.
I personally enjoyed them. Like, I can see the first one was better, and there were some bad points about the second two. But really, what I would like to see happen is what I thought the second movie was setting up, which I thought was much more of an interesting concept than what they went with, which would be it turning out that the Matrix, the outer world, the outside the Matrix, was actually inside another Matrix.
That might have been pretty cool.
There was like layers,
Inception levels.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. I honestly think that maybe Inception got the idea from that being something indicated, because they at the end of the second movie they show Neo using his powers outside the Matrix to destroy some of the machines, and there's two possibilities there. One, he just has these superpowers outside, or he's actually still in the Matrix, or a Matrix, right?
He's in the Matrix's Matrix.
They didn't I don't even remember him
They
destroying machines
decided
with his mind again.
They decided to no, he does towards the very
Yeah,
end
but
when he's all blind and everything.
yeah,
But
okay.
I mean,
It's not a big
they
deal.
decided to try to make it into a Jesus parallel story where he's a martyr, and it just didn't work. You're right. The Wachowski brothers built a great franchise with number one. I think they tried to throw too many twists and turns into number two, and then number three just fell short. So
Yeah, so that's why I would like to see that remade with changing up the storyline kind of significantly to incorporate something more interesting than the way that they went with it. You
yeah,
know,
no, I'm
and
with you. I agree.
I personally like the idea of the layers of matrices that, if this is no one knows how long they've been in there, maybe it's a layered matrix because the last one iteration they let the matrix play out so long that history repeats itself within the matrix.
So there you
And
go. So yeah.
yeah, or
So that'd
whatever
be
the
cool.
case may be.
Moving on to the next movie I would like to see, and I would just like to see this one, the old one totally thrown away and the new one just remade, and that is Wanted. And that is because this is the source material was supposed to be this graphic novel called Wanted, which is one of the coolest graphic novels ever. If you haven't read it, go ahead and read it, because if you think it's anything like the movie, it's not. It is an amazing graphic novel. Instead of being part of a fraternity of assassins who save the world by killing one person at a time, he's actually part of the fraternity of supervillains who just kill everybody and rule everything. So it's a lot cooler that way, because they live in one of those parallel universes where all the villains won. So I would love to see it that way, because the whole my dad might have died, then he's protecting me, and then it's crap. Let's go with the graphic novel. You had great source material. Why you didn't use it, I'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your next one?
The last one is one that I would really like to see added on to, especially since there had been plans to continue this series, and that's the Unbreakable series, from which is not really a series because they only made one.
Yeah.
But
they set him up to be a superhero.
Yes, and what I had heard was there was plans for it to turn into a trilogy. And there was even agreements, like Samuel L. Jackson, I think, agreed to do it, and Bruce Willis agreed to come back for this trilogy. That never happened.
Shyamalan didn't ever get it done, huh?
Yeah, well, he moved on to other projects,
which sucked.
Yeah, well, they didn't do as well for him anyway.
After Unbreakable, he was pretty much downhill.
Yeah, well, that's the feeling of a lot of the populace. And to be fair, a lot of people didn't even aren't even aware of Unbreakable as much. Like, I don't know, it didn't make as big of a splash.
I thought that was another one of his great surprise endings.
That's honestly one of his best movies, like technical wise. It's one of the best stories of any movie out there. The best setups, the best technique used for the filmmaking, everything. It was a great. Like, that was really, I think, his masterpiece.
Yeah.
But it kind of flew under the radar. And they never ended up making the sequels, which I would have loved to see, because that was essentially an origin movie, and we all know that, or for a superhero origin movie, but a really a much more realistic, gritty kind. But we all know the second one of these superhero movies always turns out better, because now you don't have to deal with the origin stuff. Now you can really get into it.
Yeah, that's true. That is usually the best. But so those are our movies that we'd like to see either remade or added onto. So if you have a couple movies that you'd like to have remade or added onto, let us know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear some more ideas, because there's plenty of movies just that have great source material that never got made right, or that just haven't ever been completed, like Unbreakable. So let us know what you think, and you can always hit us up on Twitter too. So, let us know. Let's move it on to another segment that we like to call Quick Hits.
What? It's so quick.
I know. I tried to do that. Yeah, I throw that in there real quick. So, Quick Hits. There we go. The sound effect. All right. So, our first quick hit of the night would be EA Games has announced that it will be shutting down about 50 games from their online servers, so you can no longer play multiplayer on these games. Now, a lot of these games are like FIFA 08, Madden 08, Madden 09, older games, and most of them, to be honest with you, look like the list was pretty much predominantly on PC. But there were two games on
no one really plays that long out.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. But like you saw Battlefield 2, Battlefield 1942, but there was two games on this list that brought a little bit of a tear to my eye, and that's Battlefront 1 and 2 are going to be taken offline for PC. Great Star Wars game. So I'll miss that one.
Well, off of their, I didn't realize they were the ones hosting the servers, but those, at least the first one's old enough that people should have private servers up somewhere, right?
No, you hope so. So if you like it, you can continue playing it. And who knows? We should be getting a new one sometime in the next couple of years. So looking forward to that. But let's move it on to the next Quick Hit. And that is the show Constantine, which will be airing on NBC on Fridays, has just gotten a trailer. And to be honest with you, it looks pretty darn cool. You have a wisecracking Constantine fighting demons. I like it.
Yeah, I actually saw that just today, and at work, my boss was actually putting something on the screen, and for some reason, the Constantine trailer came up, and he was so interested, he just left it up instead of going on to what he was going to do.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I like to see a little bit of demon detective work going on. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's move it on to the next Quick Hit. And that is voting for Madden has begun. So the annual vote for the Madden cover has begun. It's always bracket style where you have players against players. I believe there's about 32 players in the brackets, and so you'll just vote head to head, and each winner will move on. And I'm just gonna say this right now. Let's get the words from my face people out there. Let's all vote for Alfred Morris. He's going up against Andrew Luck in the first round. Let's move him on.
Whoa. Don't you remember the Madden curse?
You're right.
People
Don't vote for. Do not vote for him. If you vote for him, you are not allowed to listen to the show anymore.
Really, what we need to do is get Chewbacca on there.
Just
saying.
Because we all know he wins the Super Bowl every year, even though he's not really represented. He just shows up, they give him the Lombardi Trophy, and he's done.
And he's the only one not going to get injured from being on the cover.
That's very true. That's very true. But let's move it on to the next Quick Hit. And this one is a very interesting one. TBS has announced the cancellation of a show and the renewal of a show. And I think they kind of got it backwards. So they're canceling a show called Men at Work, and I thought it was a pretty funny show. Danny Masterson was on that. There's a couple other guys that you might recognize. I just thought it was a pretty funny show. And they're renewing Cougar Town with Courtney Cox, and that's a pretty horrible show. And I'll be honest with you. I've never been able to sit through more than 5 minutes of that show, so I don't know if it's, I mean, it's just that bad.
Have you attempted it more than once?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if you've attempted it more than once, then there's no reason to ever do it again. Like, if something can't keep your attention for more than 5 minutes for 2 different episodes, then there's nothing for it.
Let's just say this: there's a reason ABC canceled that show first, and then it got picked up by TBS, and TBS picked it up because it had a big star, Courtney Cox. So that's about it. But that was our Quick Hits of the night. And let's move it on to our last story of the night, and this is a pretty cool one. Now, last week, if you remember, during our Quick Hit segment, I actually talked about there was rumors that a new Unreal game was coming out because they had just finished a new Unreal Engine, and so that new Unreal game was supposed to be Unreal 4. And just the other day, they announced plans for the new Unreal 4 game. And it's not that they're making a new game that's so cool, it's the way they're making it. And so Epic Games has said they kind of want to make this as a transparent game. So what they're going to do is they're going to start putting you're going to be able to see them live putting in like codes and developing all the games, and they want input from other players who are Unreal fans and other developers. So they're going to be making this game in front of the public for all to see. Now, they say it's going to be a couple months before they get a playable version of the game, like an alpha, ready to go, because they are starting it from scratch with the Unreal Engine. But they really said they wanted to do this just to showcase how easy the Unreal Engine is to use, and, I mean, it's kind of just marketing themselves. The next cool thing... Yeah, that's really cool. But then the next cool thing is when this game is finished, they are going to release it completely free. Not free to play, completely free.
Wow. For Unreal.
For Unreal. Unreal Tournament 4 will be a completely free game. They're not going to do all this stuff where you have to, okay, you can free to play, but then you have to pay for this or you have to pay for that. And if you don't pay for all this little stuff that adds up to $1 billion, you can't compete with anybody else in the game. This is just going to come out completely free. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage people to modders, those people out there who already add on to these games, other developers, they want them to say, hey, take a crack at our Unreal game, make us a new level, make us a new weapon, do something with it. And then eventually the plan is to develop a marketplace for all these mods and these things where you can buy, you can sell, or you can even give away content for free. Let's say you're a smaller indie developer, you want to show people, hey, I can do some of this cool stuff too. You throw out your own mod, and maybe you get yourself a little more attention. And so that's how the game is going to be paid for itself, because this marketplace, when it comes into play after the game's release, is really going to generate all the revenue for it. So I think this is a very innovative and new way of doing a game, and they're taking cues from the free-to-play, and they're just kind of adding on to that.
Yeah, and honestly, Epic's not that alien to this kind of project. They have previously released the code and even like open source the code for some of the other Unreal, at least the other Unreal based games. Like I think what was it, Quake 3 and one of the other Unreal games I think was released in open source and now has like browser versions of the game and things like that.
There you go.
So it's not completely alien to things that they've done, but I don't think they've ever done it immediately like this. So that's pretty cool, and definitely it encourages people to use it. And I would assume that if a major company is going to use the engine to do stuff, they probably still have to get a licensing fee. So that would encourage. It encourages them to like play around with it first and then go for it. I don't know. I don't know if that was part of it, or if they don't need a licensing fee under this condition. But
still, they're also bringing that whole modder community, in which if you don't know, if you don't play games on PC, mostly you're missing out, unfortunately, because I don't really play PC games that much. But a lot of games like Skyrim, you play the game Skyrim, which is huge. I mean, there's hundreds of plus hours of play there. And then if we were to use some of the mods, people create new dungeons, they create new levels, they create new weapons, they create new costumes. You're looking at a game that could last you forever.
Yeah, and people are continually making mods for a lot of these games that encourage modding. Like Skyrim, its longevity is going to last for a while. Like there's still
years.
Yeah, I still see channels that make a top 3 mods of the week or sometimes of the day. So now, like, still doing it, that have come out of all, like, the top 3. So there's so many other mods that have come out within the week or that have started coming up within that week, and they have new content, because there's always like, oh, we'll put on display this new HD armor or this HD remake, which is a minor thing, or this quest or this town or this feature or whatever that like Skyrim does, and a bunch of other games, and even some of the older games, like older Elder Scrolls games, still get mods. Other games that allow for it still get mods. A really obscure one that I used to like to play, Dink, The Adventures of Dink, or Free Dink.
Dink?
Yeah, it's called Dink. It was supposed to be like a Zelda-like game.
Are you a
but it really
Dinkleberry?
wasn't. Yeah, but it really wasn't. But the game itself is not super long. But they had a mod marketplace, kind of like they're talking about with Unreal, but further back, and I don't think that they charged for as many things charged for anything. But they would have mods based on it that were bigger than the original game, and that was actually most of the fun, was getting these mods that had new storylines, new quests, because the base storyline that they made was really just basic, getting through establishing the character. And they just expected it to be modded, and it worked out nice.
I mean, we've seen this in games like, I believe it was America's Army, or some sort of army game where it got modded and turned into a zombie survival horror game, which then the creators took and made it into a real game. So I mean, you have a lot of these things. They just bring new ideas, fresh ideas from angles, from every angle, and it's making it more of a community thing, which I think is really cool, because it really brings you that personal attachment to the game, which is amazing for the developers, because if you can get people that love to get on, love to keep playing your game, you can relatively cheaply keep providing content and then making money off of that. So it's a good model for business, but then we also get cheaper content. We get some of the free stuff. We get and a game that we just love to play over and over and over. It's like imagine a movie that never ended but just kept going on, and every little bit of the movie you just kept loving, and it just kept adding on and on and on, and you could just keep enjoying the story or whatever you're doing, the adventure. So I just love this idea.
And some of these mods prove somewhat revolutionary or change a lot of things up. Like there were mods for the Warcraft 3 game that led to what is now League of Legends. They had the Dota mod, the Defense of the Ancients mod, which became a really big game set. Everyone started playing it, even though it wasn't strictly any longer an RTS game set like Warcraft 3 was. And like I said, you had spin-offs from that.
Well, that's where World of Warcraft came from, was another mod-inspired
thing. Well,
yeah,
kind of. But World of Warcraft went the MMORPG option, which was already kind of there, but the Dota option was kind of a new game set that's where you get the League of Legends, this idea of these matches where you play as a hero and build up the tech tree the way that they do in the team environment that they do it in. That was a big deal. And there's League of Legends, there's Heroes of Newerth, one that I played, which was by the guys that originally worked on that mod. They split off, made a company, and decided to release this kind of game. There's other games like that out now. It's its own genre now. So
there you go. I mean, this is our way of the fans of these games helping inspire the developers of these games, which are I mean, they're fans too, but it's just helping keeping all the ideas fresh and moving forward. So it's League of Legends. Epic Games, I salute you. I don't know, do you have a sound effect for salutes?
How do sound effects or do salutes make a sound effect or sound at all?
Maybe not. Yeah, I guess you're right. No sound effects for the salutes. None.
We'll give us a.
There we go. We applaud you. How about that? We applaud you. I changed my statement. We applaud you. And that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, anything you want to add on to any of our stories, you can be our show's modders, folks. Give us some comments down below. Hit us up at Words for My Face on Twitter. But comments down below, look at wordsformyface.com. Drop us a line there, and we'd be happy to add some to the show. We just talked about how we love the user experience. Be a user. Be involved. We'd love to hear it. But, as always, mod our show. That's right.
Whatever you need to do.
Some people I have the nation, or I have these people. We have the modders. Yeah. That's our audience name now. The modders. I don't know why, but it's going to be. And as long as I do it in this voice, it'll sound cool. That's what
official.
Official. But that'll do it for the evening. My name is Brian. With me, as always, producer extraordinaire Brendan.
Yo.
And we are signing out. Peace.